Hello again, YouTube. So it's Sunday, June 26th. I'm not sure what time it is. Let me check. 8:36 p.m. My apologies for the vertical video, but I'm carrying my Sip and Save drink from Circle K. Just done chilling on this bench and updating my just going through my videos and deleting ones that have already been posted to YouTube and making sure I got the times and the descriptions from them. That's adorable. You know, I always kind of dreamed about having a family like that where my wife and I and my kids could go riding bikes together like that. And yeah, that's not on my destiny. It's never going to happen. I did once upon a time try riding a bike with my ex-wife, and she was just so physically out of shape. She just couldn't really begin to keep up with me on a bike, which was kind of crazy because at that time I hadn't rode a bike in years, and but I don't know, I just couldn't force myself to slow down to a pace that she was at. And within a couple of blocks, she was just so completely winded that I don't even think we rode home. I think we walked the bikes home. And that was the one and only time that I attempted to bike with the wife. And of course, she left me when Allison was about 14 months old. So yeah, never got the chance to do the morning bike ride as a family. It's just really depressing. I have really fond memories of doing that as a child with my parents, and I don't know. I guess I shouldn't say that, you know. I now that I'm thinking about it and memories are kind of popping up, when Allison was like 4, she did have a bike that she rode that had training wheels on it, and I had a children's bike. It was actually smaller than a 20-inch bike. I wish I knew what size it was, but it was like a little children's bike, but it didn't have training wheels on it. It's a really, really neat bike, and I still have it. It's a promotional item for Caterpillar construction equipment. I think it's probably worth some money. It's probably eBay the damn thing, but I don't know. It's a neat bike. Still have it. It's a little tiny thing, but I found if I rode that silly little bike that I could actually ride it, as awkward as it was, me, a full-grown man, on that tiny bike, but that I could ride it. And being on that thing slowed me down enough that I was able to kind of match Allison at 3 years old, with her little bike with her training wheels. Not that we really went far, but we kind of went around the neighborhood where we lived in Tempe, and that was really neat. So I guess I did get to do that with one of my kids. Never really got to do it with Lily, though. I mean, I guess there's still time with Lily. She's 12. At this point, I often wonder if I'll ever see her again. I really have no idea where she's at and where her mother has disappeared with her, too. And with this current situation with the so-called girlfriend that has turned into a really bad roommate that I can't get rid of, I don't know. I feel like I can't even pursue going after trying to find Lily, because I don't really have a suitable home to put her in, and I don't really want that to, and of course that's a problem. It just is what it is. So, gosh, where was I? Last video got cut off, obviously, right as I was getting to the juicy stuff, and finally explain why, my number one reason why I can't get rid of Priscilla. And yeah, And Lady Ness was sitting with me at the bar, and she's like, well, you should go to the police. And I'm like, what do I go to the police? What do I say? You know, it's just, there's just no way I come out of that a winner. And I proceeded to tell her about what had happened, you know, with my ex-wife, because I'd never told her about that, and how my ex-wife, you know, when she left me, told the police that I had tried to kill her, that I had physically abused her, physically beat her and tried to kill her, which of course I did no such thing, but they believed it and just came immediately to my place and arrested me, and how I spent, you know, a load of time in jail based on her false allegation, and that when I finally did get out of jail, she had taken everything that I owned, absolutely everything that was in my house, and moved it. Most of that stuff I never got back. You know, so she literally stole everything. And there were things I'd had since I was a child, records I'd had since I was 2 years old, and toys that I had that my mother had hung on to for me that she had brought back to me since I finally, she'd be clearing out her storage, and I had a house now and a family now, so now's the time to give it to me so I could securely hang on to it. Yeah, that didn't last long at all. You know, blues and all that stuff. Oddly enough, my mother has found some more old toys that I had and given them to me, and I have them in my apartment now. So hopefully the situation with Priscilla doesn't go that far awry. But I tell you, last night when I was just so depressed and I was walking from and not able to vlog because my phone was dead, and I was walking from Kitty's Cocktails down to Hideaway. Sometimes the imagery that goes through my head, and it's just part of having, you know, being schizophrenic, having schizoaffective disorder, is sometimes things that are in your mind, you visualize them in a way that's really things that are in my mind. I visualize them in a way that is really, really powerful, and I just kept seeing all these different irrigation's going cool. I just kept having these images of me killing Priscilla in her sleep on my couch. Different methods. It's pretty grisly, and I can't stop these thoughts. And I'm not saying I'm gonna do it. I don't think I would ever do it. I don't think I have the guts to do it, and I feel like my life is generally on the right track right now in terms of, you know, my job at Amazon, and my gig at Bullocks is still going fabulous, and I should hopefully have my car back today. I mean, in worst case scenario, I could take a bus down to Rob's shop and be like, you know what, I need a car more than I need a car with air conditioning. I need my car back now. I mean, conceivably I could. Still haven't heard from him yet today, by the way. Yeah, but yeah, those images have been going through my head in a really strong way, and I told Lady Ness that. She's like, well, you don't want to do that. I'm like, well, no, I really do want to do that. It's just something I shouldn't do. But anyway. Well, yeah, we had a good conversation, and she told me she was there because things are really bad with her. She's telling me some pretty intimate details about her and her fiance. And I've met her fiance a few times. He's always been really cool to me. He's actually got a vehicle that you can find if you search Google Images. Search for Not the Popo. He bought a Phoenix Police SUV, and Priscilla not back still spending the night with whoever she's spending the night with. What time is it now? I think one of these things. Still shooting video. It's 8:45 a.m. Still off with whoever she stays the night with. It's not me. Yeah. Hopefully she's getting her birthday sex this year, since I didn't. So now now's that month, that month and a half where we're both a month and a quarter-ish, where we're both the same age. We're both 51. I just walked by the dumpster again. That reminds me of what I was going to talk about, which happened after leaving the bar. I'm just kind of back to where I was with the bar with Lady Ness, and just talking about how I'm, scared to death that Priscilla will make a false allegation against me, and she knows that that'll work. And I've already been through it multiple times with my ex-wife, and told her how that never ended with my ex-wife. How even after we were separated, she continued to make false allegation after false allegation, resulting in me being arrested numerous times, and eventually my daughter Allison being taken away from me after I spent well over a year fighting for custody of her, and getting awarded 3 days a week physical custody, which is how I had her between the ages of 2 and 4. She's a little over 4. She lived with me 3 days a week, and it was a really good time. Priscilla doesn't really remember it. Or, I'm sorry, not Priscilla, but Allison doesn't really have any memories of it. I mean, every now and then she tells me she remembers having a red bed. So she remembers little things, but it's I'd be lying if I said I remembered vivid experiences that I had when I was 3 and 4 years old. I mean, I have some flashback images that come to me every now and then of my grandfather and his junk and his pallets. That's one of the reasons I like working and stacking pallets so much. The old wood pallets at Amazon so much is sometimes when I'm doing it, I get these weird images and feelings, like just memories of feelings of being with my grandfather. I never got to see him a whole lot after my parents separated when I was 5. My dad kind of went out of his way to make sure that I didn't have much time or relationship with my mother's parents. And my mom always took, we took trips out to see them, but, instead of, when I was a little child, he was pretty much in my daily life or semi-daily life. And then after that, it just, maybe get to see him for a few days once a year, and that's not much. And then once I got to be like 16, I didn't see him at all for, I don't know, I guess I saw him once when I was 17, I think. Went back and lived with him for a short period of time. Now, when I was 17, that's when his Alzheimer's was starting to kick in, and I went back and lived with him for, I don't know, I want to say maybe 6 weeks when I was 18. And those were really rough times because his Alzheimer's had advanced really far at that time. And by that time, he didn't know me. He didn't know anybody. Alzheimer's is pretty brutal it's brutal for the person experiencing it, but I feel like in many ways it's more brutal for everybody around that person. Glenn Campbell has a song that I absolutely love, and I'm not sure if he had part in writing it or if it was written for him. I mean, I know his Alzheimer's was getting pretty bad when he recorded it and released it, but I did see Glenn Campbell in 2011 when he went on his last tour, and his Alzheimer's was getting pretty bad then, and the man still could sing with just an amazing voice that just give me goosebumps, and still play, still pick, still one of the best guitar pickers ever at that time. Every now and then he'd kind of lose his place, and he'd stop and he'd apologize for it, and he's like, I got this. And he'd ask the band to start over, and he only did that a couple of times. Both times it was kind of like, I just felt for the man. Like, well, at least he's giving it his all right now for his fans, and that's pretty awesome. I'd walk over here behind Costco and take a look at one of their forklifts as they park theirs over here. That looks like the way I tagged mine the other day when it had a leak. It says danger. So, equipment locked out by. Oh, this looks a lot more complicated than what I operate. It's got the same kind of wheel, although it just has the crank as opposed to the crank on a wheel. That controller though looks a lot more complicated than what I have. But this is awfully similar. Just the overall style is awfully similar to the one that I operate for Amazon. Giant ass electric battery on it. Looks to be about the same size. I wonder if it's got the OSHA. It's got to have the OSHA certificate that says what the weight is. Oh, no, it doesn't. It's peeled off. Oh, nope, there it is. Raymond model 425. Truck weight, battery weight, maximum capacity, 3,000 pounds. Yeah, so it's rated for the same as the one I operate for Amazon. That's where they stack their pallets where they stack the pallets over here at Costco. And there's some of their pallet jacks. Never seen them stacked like that before. That's interesting. Those red Raymond pallet jacks, we do have those over at Amazon. We have way more of a different brand, and I forget what it is, but they're yellow. I don't know. I've used the red ones, and for a while I was kind of starting to prefer the red ones, and then I kind of got more used to the yellow ones just because they're more common. And the last time I grabbed a red one, it just didn't feel right to me, so I went and grabbed one of the yellow ones. But I don't know, I've been just thinking really hard about, after I get my signing bonus, trying to find a place that'll pay me more as an experienced forklift operator. Not that I'm particularly experienced right now, but it's a start, it's something. So I've been told that it's not like it used to be, where, from what I was told back in the day, for a long time, in order to operate a forklift, you had to get training. Well, obviously, you have to get training. It's a difficult thing to operate, but you get an OSHA certificate, and that's comparable to like a driver's license. It's a certificate that you can that's yours, and it's from, and bring that with you. And now, apparently, that's not how it is now. Like I'm certified through Amazon. And they said they used to give you like a badge that you wore, but I was never given that, and I was told that they just don't have them anymore, or that they're coming back. I don't know if they're out. I don't know. But yeah, the only thing that really marks me as a forklift operator at Amazon is the fact that I'm wearing a safety vest that says new operator on it. But anybody could wear that. But the most defining thing for me is that, everybody in my department knows that I'm a pit driver, forklift operator. But the main thing is that you got to log into those. They've got a thing where it scans my ID badge, and until you're in the system as somebody that can scan it and start it up, you can't scan it and start it up. So yeah, I'm a forklift operator with Amazon, but I don't have an OSHA certificate. I don't, and I wonder if at this point other companies are the same way. It would seem to me, if I went to another company that not that how much experience do you have? Well, I have 3 weeks of experience with Amazon. I'm sure that wouldn't carry much weight. So yeah, obviously I'm not going to be going to another warehouse anytime soon, but I don't know. The amount of money I'm making it's not bad, but without Priscilla helping me on the apartment, I'd really be struggling to just maintain my living expenses with the car and the apartment, to say nothing of all the money that I owe Rob for repairs on my car, and all the money I owe various creditors. So yeah, I feel like without without Priscilla helping me, I have no chance of getting out, but the help she's given me isn't much, and just living with her is doing so much damage to my emotional and mental health. I'm kind of torn as to, is it worth it? And of course the logical thing is, well, if I got her out, maybe I could get a roommate, but it would certainly take a lot of work to get my apartment to a point, and once she gets all her crap out of it, to get my apartment to a point where I would be comfortable letting another person in there. And then even once I do, then I'm back into the whole other roommate things. And at least I trust Priscilla's not going to steal from me. But I've had so many problems in the past with roommates stealing from me, and roommates bringing friends over that they don't know, that I don't know, that also steal from me. I mean, that's a large part of why I'm a convicted felon. If I trace the root cause, why am I a convicted felon? If I trace it down to where it started, it starts with a roommate. I think his name was Rhett. Cool roommate. He's a really good friend of mine until that incident happened, and I've never seen him since. But he was just a really friendly guy, and he'd go to the bar and he'd meet people at the bar, and oh yeah, my townhouse is right before. We can party after hours at my townhouse, and he'd bring people over and that he didn't really know. And at the time, I was taking medication for my bipolar and schizoaffective disorder to try to stop me from having episodes, because I was having really bad episodes back then. I mean, to the point where I didn't know who I was, where I was. I was just the best thing I can think to relate it is, if you've ever seen either the movie Cool World, or if you've seen the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and you see what the scenes are like in Toontown. When I would have an episode, that's what my reality looked like. I would see the world that I'm looking at, but through that sort of a distorted, twisted. Buildings would be breathing, things would be moving. Just what I saw wasn't. And I would see people that weren't there and hear people that were there. Maybe they were there, but I saw them different than how they are, and would hear things and doing stuff, and lots of voices. And granted, some of the voices were real voices and some of the voices weren't, but it was hard to really decipher them. And anyway, the pills were keeping the symptoms at bay. I was still struggling, but it was helping. And one of those people that he brought into my apartment saw pills in the medicine cabinet and took them, because, oh look, there's some pills. Happy pills. Look, drugs are fun. And I lost my pills, and I wasn't able to replace my pills. And my symptoms came on really hard and fast, and I went to the pharmacy and tried to get my pills replaced, and mind you, by the time I got in the store, just all the voices and all the people in the store were really hard to deal with, and to sort out, who's real and who's not real, and who's yelling at me and who's chasing me, and I felt like there were people that were trying to get me, and it was just terrifying. And then when I got to the pharmacist, I'm pretty sure I did talk to the pharmacist, although he kind of seemed like a monster to me. But he said, well, I can't help you. You've already renewed your prescription. And I'm like, yeah, I renewed it, but I've lost my pills and I need them replaced. And they wouldn't replace them. And they're like, well, you need to call your clinic or call your doctor. But I didn't have a phone, so and I'm like, well, can you call them? And and they couldn't or wouldn't. And anyway, I probably got arrested a half hour after that. These teenagers kept following me and taunting me, and I believe they followed me to the store, and I believe they were teasing me in the store. They kept following me and taunting me, and I kicked one of them in the butt just out of absolute terror, because I was just so scared in my weakened mental state. And I didn't kick him like I was trying to hurt him. It was just more like kind of a comical swift kick in in the butt. And a cop that was coming down the alley that they had followed me into, that I'd gone into just trying to get away from them, the cop had, they were, I guess, investigating an unrelated domestic violence incident, and that cop was trying to basically watch the alley to see if the guy was going to try to disappear out of the house and into the alley. I'm ready for him, but he saw me kick this teenager in the butt and immediately put cuffs on me. At least he tried to put cuffs on me. I somehow, when I'm having a manic episode like that, I move really fast. My thoughts and my reality, like I've often mentioned, I don't feel like I perceive time the way normal people perceive time, and sometimes it goes really slow, and sometimes I'm just completely detached from it, which is one of the main reasons I'm very panicked about like not having my phone charged up, because then I have no way of knowing what time it is, especially at night. At least at the daytime I have shadows that kind of help me keep a perspective on what the time is. Anyway, at this point, I'm completely detached from time, and I don't know, I seem to get this superhuman kind of speed capability. Anyway, my hands are moving so fast, as he went to put the handcuffs on me, I pulled the handcuff keys out of his hand, so that caught me another charge for resisting arrest, which had I not had a public defender, had I had a real attorney, they could have certainly argued my mental state, which there was no shortage of documentation of, as the fact that I couldn't be held criminally liable for any of these acts because I wasn't in control of myself. I mean, it's one thing if you're doing it under the influence of drugs or alcohol, but I was under the influence of not having my drugs. I was supposed to be on prescription drugs and I didn't have them, and that's what happened due to my mental illness of not having my drugs to keep me together. So anyway, aggravated assault on a minor, resisting arrest. They did eventually drop the resisting arrest charge, but the cop somehow talked me into giving him the keys back, which is a good thing. God knows if I'd have ran off with his keys, he'd have probably fucking shot me. Kind of surprised they didn't shoot me as it was, because Phoenix cops are good at that. Seems like it was in Phoenix where, and maybe I'm saying the wrong city, but I remember an incident a few years back where a cop was yelling at somebody to get down on the ground and put his hands behind his back, and kept yelling at him, and the guy wouldn't do it, so the cop shot him and killed him. And he's like, well, he wasn't responding to my orders. The man was deaf. The man didn't hear any of his orders. The man was scared. Well, I just found 2 quarters on the ground. 3 quarters on the ground. 75 cents. That's a come up right there. Plot twist. They're my quarters. I don't know. I did lose my lucky $10 Canadian bill out of my pocket. So it's I don't know. Hopefully I didn't lose too much other cash, but there's no way of knowing. I'm not really good at keeping track of my cash or remembering what I have, or remembering anything really, except what's directly in front of me that I can see, and just odd memories that come and go. I did remember when I walked down the alley that I wanted to grab this vandalized scooter that can't be tracked by bird anymore. Really curious how fast this thing will go without bird speed regulation of it. I mean, they're pretty powerful little scooters, so I would guess probably 25 miles per hour, maybe faster. Anyway, where was I? And if you're a representative of bird, just just contact me via the comments, and I'll tell you how to contact me more directly from there, and show me some actual credentials that this is your scooter, and I'll happily give it back. But for the moment, I'm just cleaning tweaker trash out of my alley. Anyway, so yeah, that's how I became a convicted felon. All because of bad roommate situations. So yeah, I'm not very keen on the thought of I'm very happy with Priscilla as my roommate, and I'm not particularly keen on the thought of having anybody else as a roommate. And certainly not putting out an ad for roommate wanted. That'll never happen. Yeah, the movie Single White Female, that was a pretty good warning about why nobody should ever do that. Oh, yeah, definitely my favorite Jennifer Jason Leigh movie. God, I used to have such a crush on her. Oh, anyhow, gosh, where was I? I'm making no sense on this video, and amazing, I haven't run out of space yet. Guess I should finish my story of last night. I think I finished the story of, the roommate resulted in me being a convicted felon. If I had had money for a lawyer, I'm sure I would have been able to get out of that. But as a poor person with just a public defender, all they wanted me to do was sign a plea bargain, which eventually I did. And I don't think there's any way to turn that over all these years now. And that's, in many ways, that's been the one thing that's destroyed all my life since, because I'm discriminated against when it comes to housing and employment and everything else, because, I did a records check on you and you're a convicted felon. Yeah, so it's a very circumstantial thing. I didn't do anything wrong. I was a victim of having my medicine stolen from me. Nobody understands that. Nobody believes that. Nobody's willing to listen to that story. In fact, I wonder if anybody actually listened to that story on this video, or if they just kind of realize that I'm just droning on and have already clicked on to other places in YouTube. Anyway, Anyway, last night, I ended up, at the end of the night, and of course I didn't, meet any women, and several guys came over and flirted with Lady Ness, and she even told me a couple of them. She's like, oh yeah, that guy's really my type. I dig guys like that. I'm like, yeah, he's like 3 inches taller than me. I said if I was 3 inches taller, I'd probably have women say that I'm their type as well. She's like, oh, you're a really good looking guy. I'm like, yeah, that's why you've never hooked up with me. That's why there's no women flirting with me at all. But at least gracious, she cared enough about me to talk to me, because prior to sitting and talking with her, I felt brutally and painfully alone. And I really didn't want to distract the KJ. He was running a show, and he seemed like the show he had the night before was kind of overwhelming to him, and he just was trying to recover from it. And I've been there as a DJ and as a KJ, and yeah, I don't want to distract another KJ while they're running their show. I just don't. So, anyway, yeah, she gave me a ride home. Got home about 2:15. Priscilla wasn't home then. She's not home now. It's 9:09 a.m. So, anyway, I think I mentioned on my video where I was heading out last night, because I woke up at about 8:30 p.m. and it was dark and I was alone. Well, Priscilla had been kind of in and out of the place yesterday. In fact, at one point she came in the apartment and she seemed kind of surprised that I was there, and my car wasn't there, because I think she drove by and saw my car and was like, oh good, Dan's not here, and then came in because she left shortly thereafter. She did say that the reason her car stereo wasn't working is that there was a fuse under the hood, which of course I told her, follow the lines, there's a fuse somewhere, it's probably what it is. Fuse under the hood, so that's why she got her car stereo working again. Good for her on that. She mentioned that, no physical intimacy. It would have been great if she came in and just gave me some of that, but that didn't happen. And I told her that, Rob was working on my air conditioning, and she's like, oh, so he fucked up your car again? I'm like, no, that's the AC compressor that was on it when I bought it years ago. I said, and God knows how old it was then, and it didn't have Freon when I got it. It's amazing it's amazing he ever got that compressor to work. And the fact that it has worked so long since then is kind of a feat as well. It's definitely time for a new AC compressor. So anyway, after that she said, she just walked out of the room. Didn't really say anything after that. I don't know, probably about 10, 15 minutes later, I got up and walked into the kitchen to see if she was still, and in the living room, see if she was still here, and she was gone. She'd driven away. Now, at one point, I did wake up in the afternoon, and I came out, and she was just, sitting on the couch in her mess, and stuff going on her laptop screen, stuff going on her smartphone screen. She's always busy with all of that. And she's like, oh, you were sleeping really deep. You were snoring loud. I'm like, yeah, I don't sleep very well usually, but sometimes it's nice when it finally happens. And she didn't really say anything after that. I just walked back into my room, and no mention of it being her birthday, today, or her having a birthday party that night, no mention of that at all. And of course that begs the question, would I have wanted to go if she asked me? And I don't know, probably not. I mean, I had already told Raul that I was going to join him, although once I did join Raul, I felt like I didn't really join Raul. That's a separate tragedy. I just felt really alone when I got to Old Brass Rail. And then there was this situation of not being able to charge my phone, which was difficult. But anyway, I went back in the bedroom and put on, I don't know, mostly what I've been listening to is different YouTubers' takes on the repercussions of Roe versus Wade being overturned by the Supreme Court. Probably the best one that I heard, and not that I'm a big fan of this person, but I just really liked the way he broke it down, and it was actually reading the text, because I have not read the opinion. I know it's over 100 pages, and I don't think I have the patience to read 100 pages of anything right now, but he was skimming it and reading large chunks of it, and actually reading it versus trying to relate what other people says, the different justices' opinions were. And anyway, Ben Shapiro had a really, really good, and I think I fell asleep. I don't think I made it through all of it, but I listened to quite a bit of it. And Ben Shapiro had a really, really good, most of it was just him reading the opinion verbatim, but he was kind of giving some good examples of, what it meant, which is a lot more helpful than people going, than the mainstream news going, you've lost your right to an abortion. They never, that's not in the Constitution, kids. It's just not. I had a really horrible argument with my older daughter, Allison, about that the day it happened. And she's like, well, as long as I have a working uterus, I guess I'm never coming back to Arizona. I'm like, well, okay. I said, anyway, at one point I just stopped messaging her because I was tired and I just couldn't take the emotional stress of it. And she's, I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. You're in Oregon. Like, it's not changing in Oregon. And she's like, well, you still need to protest against, you still, even if it doesn't affect me personally, you need, or she said to me, so, well, even if it doesn't affect you personally, the right thing to do is still fight against evil everywhere. And I said, your mother felt strongly that killing an unborn baby was evil. Pretty sure my mother feels the same way. So evil's kind of in the eye of the beholder. Because to her, that Roe versus Wade being overturned is evil. Anyway, when I got up the next day, as much as I don't agree with her on that, she's my daughter and I love her, and she's probably the closest person I have in my life. So I just kind of read the rest of what she said, and I didn't even really respond to it much because it was just kind of going down the same road. And I'm like, just no matter what, that she had said something about, I'm like, people in Arizona, it's just, even if it's, even if they can't get it in Arizona, like it's not a far drive to California. It's like shouldn't really be a big deal. I mean, Palm Springs is just a couple hour drive away. And she's like, well, what about women in Texas? And then she's talking about women in countries that are, foreign countries on the other side of the world that have died because they couldn't get an abortion because of a medical reason, thing going on with the pregnancy where it was going to kill them. I fully support abortions in that situation. In fact, it really bothers me that Representative Bartok, I think that's her name. I don't know. I got the interview of her in one of my vlogs. And she's all gleeful that's no longer an exception in Arizona. I find that horrific. I mean, in that situation, I mean, obviously a decision needs to be made. I think, the mother's life is, unless the mother really wants to try to continue the pregnancy and knowing that it's going to kill her in hopes that maybe her unborn child, will live. I mean, I'm all for that choice. That's a good pro-choice kind of thing. But yeah, and there are times where it's medically necessary, and I feel there needs to be an allowance for that. And then certainly in the case of, minors being molested and ending up pregnant, I mean, yeah, that should be an option as well. So anyway, I wasn't going to go back onto the subject, and here I am again. Anyway, I just texted her. I said, just so you know, if you were in Texas, because she threw out an example of, a woman in Texas, where it's hundreds of miles just to get out of Texas, and all the states, and then you got most states adjacent to it that are probably completely ban abortion as well. She's like, and they don't. What about those women? And anyway, I just, rather than worrying about those women, I just wanted to just know that I love you, and if you were in Texas and you needed it, I would definitely drop what I was doing and drive you to California. Just know that. So sometimes you got to agree to disagree and just let the people that you love know you love them, Anyway, on that note, I was going to talk about the woman that I met last night. I'm 42 minutes in the thing. It's going to run out any moment. But anyway, I had a long conversation with someone who was probably a tweaker, might have been on blues as well, definitely a drug user, and it was the woman that I mentioned as I was heading out last night, after I woke up, and I woke up alone at like 8:30 p.m. and I left around 9, maybe 8:45. I had mentioned that I saw a woman dumpster diving, what I thought was a homeless woman dumpster diving. And at the time, she was dumpster diving like closer to the street that way. But she was at the dumpster right there when I came out, and had a really long, deep conversation with her. I don't think I want to talk about that right now, though, just because I've gone way too long in this video. But hopefully I'll get around to talking about it, because it was... At least I had a little bit of company in those late night, lonely, painful hours when I couldn't sleep. Anyway, on that note, I think I'm going to go inside and try to sleep. So thanks for coming with me on the walk and listening to my stories. Thanks.